Hey, you guys, my name is Kanisha. I am your host tonight. Welcome to You Talk, where we discuss everyday topics within the youth community. With me, I have Ms. Noelle Pauling, who is a licensed professional counselor. So let's welcome her. Woo!
Thank you, thank you, thank you. As
So, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, I'm good. I'm getting comfortable.
Yes, yes. So we're
Yes,
gonna
yes.
get right on into it. Okay, so just starting from the top, what is mental health in your own words? How would you
Um,
define it?
mental health. Mental health. I like to consider it as mental wellness. It's all encompassing mind, body, and spirit. It's recognizing when you have challenges, but also um, being vulnerable enough to ask for help when you need it, knowing where you are in the moment as far as what transitions are happening, what's real and what's not real that may be impacting you. So finding that place, I don't like using the word balance because that can be misleading in some circles. Um,
Mhm.
but recognizing when things with you, mind, body, and spirit are just not well, because it all impacts each other. That's kind of where mental health, mental wellness is a whole body experience.
That makes sense. That really does make sense. So what are some like common, like most of it is triggered by trauma, we know, but what are some of the most common trauma, I guess, cases that you see that triggers someone's mental health?
Oh, trauma is complicated because
Mhm.
um they clinically they have big T trauma, little T trauma. Big T trauma, we count it as witnessing like abuse or murder or like war torn stuff. And
Mhm.
then little T trauma is, one day you wanted a kitten and your mama told you no and your world fell apart. you know However, trauma is such a personal experience that what I might consider little, say you didn't get the Christmas gift you wanted, that could be a big deal in someone else's experience because there's
Mhm.
so many layers to attachment to environment where those things impact us greatly. And trauma is not just in the head. It's not just our mind, which is our thoughts and our emotions. It's held in our bodies. Those experiences are
Mhm.
held in our bodies. And so you can talk therapy all day, but if you don't bring the body into the experience, you could probably be re-traumatizing yourself just by your conversation, because you're staying in your head when you really need to be getting into your body, getting into your heart. Um, it's a whole complicated, it's not complicated, but it's just too many words to describe how trauma impacts. So it can show up as anxiety, it can show up as depression, um, greater forms of dissociation can happen. It can show even as being like hypervigilant, then there's another one that's now being talked about more, annihilation. It's a
Mhm.
rage as opposed to the fight flight. And it's the F's and I get tongue tied every time I talk about it, but the fight flight freeze response. But now we
Mhm.
have annihilation, and I guess they can't put that in there because it's not an F word. But
Mhm.
basically, annihilation is a rage, and I basically kill anything that's in my path that I feel will cause me harm. And you're seeing a
Wow.
lot of that now,
Mhm.
manifesting in the way we do life.
Well,
So,
it's good that you said that because I also saw that you are a registered play therapist. So
mhm.
with you working with children ages 4 through 12, like how do you see that I guess manifesting in their behaviors when you I guess interact with them and their families.
Okay, so with kids, a
Mhm.
lot of times developmentally, like reason is something that doesn't come right away. Typically, kids are 2 years behind in development. So they'll have big emotion with no reasoning capacity, right? So it's
Mhm.
just like, you see the 2-year-old tantruming on the floor. They have all these emotions, but not a whole lot of vocabulary. So
Right.
we're trying
Yes.
to reason with them. Don't do that. Why are you doing that? Asking these questions. And they're just not there yet.
Mm-mm.
Even if they can verbalize certain things, like really they're just not there yet. So how we'll see it show up, big tantrums that last longer than a few minutes. I've
Mm.
seen children that have actually become quite aggressive, fighting. They're doing, destructive behaviors. Um, and it's coaching the parents first on de-escalation, making
Mm.
sure they're safe, making sure they're calm, because you cannot, a mind and a body that's not calm cannot be instructed. You can't teach that.
Mm.
So, and that's in general in education,
Okay.
period. If you're in a
Mhm.
classroom and the child does not feel safe, the child's not going to learn to their best ability. So if you have a child at home who does not feel safe, you're not going to be able to coach that child through their emotions. And a
Yeah.
lot of
Mhm.
times we parent how out of how we've been parented.
Mhm.
So I do a lot of, okay, let's check parenting from the inside out. If your child's dysregulated and you're dysregulated, it's going to be this bumping of the heads. So
Mm.
parent or higher mind person has to calm themselves before they can calm the child. So when trauma comes up, um, and manifests in externally in so many ways, it is recognizing and learning how to um, engage the body to be able to regulate in order to move, because you're working the brain. You have the 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 feeling part of your brain that tells you whether you're safe or not. That's raw knowledge. But you have
Mm.
this part of your brain that actually helps you reason, helps you connect. And when we are not connected, it's called flipping your lid. We're not connected. We're not making that connection for reason. We're staying stuck. So trauma is you stuck here because all you want to do is feel safe. And you're going to do the things to feel safe, even if it's temporary.
Mm.
So when you
That makes
come
a
and you
lot of
close that
sense.
mind, close that lid, you're able to engage the entire part of your brain, the muscle, the brain, that then sends the messages to the body.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot. That's a
It is
lot.
a
So do
lot. It is a
you,
lot.
I was gonna say, so do you walk the parent through what you just walked me through, and do you
Mm-hmm.
make it, um, I guess, on a level that they can understand it as well
Yeah.
as the child, so that when they are having those interactions with them, that
Mm-hmm.
they use the tools that you've given them?
Mm-hmm. What I like to do is the conversations usually happen in real time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times the child doesn't tantrum in my office. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm company. And
Right.
initially they're going to be on their best behavior. Right.
Yes.
Or because they're getting that one-on-one attention. If they're coming to see me, they're getting that one-on-one attention. I have great toys. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
every now and again, we'll even have a snack together. So I'm great. They get home to
Yeah.
mama and daddy or whoever their caregiver is. That's not the same environment. So I walk the parent, I have the parent record the last stress situation if they can get it. But a lot of times they can't, because then the child shuts down, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but usually we can have these conversations in real time. Usually it is a step-by-step process. I don't give them all the information at once. You
Oh.
educate them on You educate them. I educate them on what's happening here. So they'll have some understanding about dysregulation within themselves and the child. I talk to them, I coach them through connecting with the child while also discipling the child. Okay, because we go through punishment, which is vengeful. It means I'm going to make you pay for what you did or did not do. But if I
Mm.
am disciplining you, I am discipling you.
Mm.
That's a different approach. But if I've never been discipled as a parent, I'm going to find that difficult. If I've only experienced punishment in my own upbringing, I'm going to find it difficult to disciple my child. So it's a lot of unlearning and finding
Mm-hmm.
your true parenting style and then relearning in real time how to do it with your child. And it's not going to be perfect. It's probably going to be messy before it's anything, you know.
Mm. Wow.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
walking with the parent and allowing the parent to grow in their confidence, supporting the parent. I don't necessarily believe there's a good parent or a bad parent. Those labels are very vague, right? I
Mm.
believe that some of us do things well and some of us need a little coaching on how to do things better. Because
Mm.
once you come into the counseling office, you know something's not right. You may not know what's not right and you may not know which direction to go in, but you recognize, and that is a good step to take. So I try
Right.
to start there with the parent. You made the first step. I know you care about this situation, even if you don't particularly like your child at the moment, you know, or like yourself
Mm-hmm.
at the moment. You made the first step to do something different. And
Right.
sometimes I have to have the hard conversation that, hey, you got to love the child you have, and hopefully you'll love the child you'll get the child you want.
Right.
So
Wow.
it's a big, you know, parenting in this world is not easy. It is not for the
Yeah.
faint. You know.
Yeah. It's not. And I guess with I don't know how many years you've been in the field, but I guess can you shed some light on when you first began, like the difference now in the time span of the millennials that you're dealing with, and what are their views on mental health, and how you've what's the word I'm trying to say? How did you, I guess, grow into understanding them a little bit better in a sense?
Okay. Well, thankfully, though there is a little still a stigma there, especially in our Black and brown communities about mental health and seeking counseling or particular types of counseling. We
Mhm.
typically go to our churches, and that's
Mhm.
a great place to start. But a lot of times they're not qualified, so to speak,
Mhm.
to handle mental health issues on a different spectrum. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's a good place to start. But then having the courage to step to the clinical side of it might need to be what's the stigma, right? Because obviously I'm crazy if I have to do that, and you're not crazy. You got crazy circumstances.
Right. Right.
So with parents who seek help for their kids or seek help with their kids, it's reassuring them that you're not crazy. You got crazy circumstances, and everybody's responding to crazy circumstances. You're doing what you think you know to do or feel you know to do. You're
Mhm.
doing the best you can, what you got, and it's not working. Um, Helping the parents not be afraid to listen to their kids, especially their teenagers, because
Mhm.
they're still it's like early on you do parent, but once you get into that those teenage
Mhm.
years, about 14 to 16, there's a lot
Mhm.
that happens in those 2 years where you might need to step back and just be their coach and let them
Mm.
explore certain things while you do set boundaries for them, because they need boundaries at this point, but don't become so overpowering and authoritative that you create rebellion. So moving them, because parents figure if I give up my authority,
Right.
I'll lose my child. And it's kind of like, well, no, let's look at it this way. Sometimes you got to step back so that they can know that you trust them while you're still there.
Hmm. Wow, that's amazing. So do you think mental health evaluations are helpful, or are you seeing more people come in for mental health evaluations that's in our Black and Brown community?
Can I answer that? Because we need to take a break. Can I answer that after we
Oh,
take our break?
sure. Yes,
I will be
we'll be
glad to
right
answer
back.
it.
Yes, we'll be right back after this. All right, you all, we are back and we are interviewing Ms. Noelle Pauling, who is telling us about some mental health tools and different things that she's seen throughout her career. So we were just leaving off about talking about mental health evaluations and have she seen people come in from the Black and Brown community for those evaluations, and are they helpful?
I have. I've actually seen an uptick in Black and Brown people coming into my office, and it's interesting because I do work in a predominantly white setting. So I have
Mm-hmm.
several you know non non Native Americans, like, from different places around the world that have come to see me, where also mental health is not one of those things that is practiced very well. Like going to see a counselor is not practiced very well. Um, I have seen more Black and Brown people in the last year. And I'm convinced it's because of COVID. I'm convinced because there's so much unrest that they're starting to realize that they can't do it themselves. This is not good for them just themselves in general. So they're seeking help, and they want to know, am I okay? Is what I'm feeling okay? Is how I'm responding okay? Like, I have no idea what's happening because so many people have so much opinion. I just need to know that I'm okay. And I need to know my kid's going to be okay. I
Right.
get a lot of parents that say, is my kid going to be okay? Because they haven't been in school, they haven't seen their friends. Things have literally fallen apart around them, with all the uncertainty. So I've seen it. I'm I'm pleased with it. I'm proud of the ones that come in, and I'm proud of the ones that are doing their best to hold it together. And I have the privilege of reminding them that, and I work with those who are non-believers too, even though I work in a very much so Christian counseling environment with a Christian framework. I get to work with non-believers just the same. And I get to remind them, maybe using a different language, but get to remind them we have a God that holds it all together, so we don't have to. He can catch it
Mm.
all, and as much as I like to give God my sticky notes and say, hey, God, this is what I want, He is faithful to say, nice job. I will stick that with the other ones, but watch me work,
Right.
and he's faithful to that.
Yes, he is. Absolutely. So how do you go about building those community partnerships in the mental health field, with it being Christian counseling?
Um, I personally
Hmm.
just just walk it out. You
Mm-hmm.
know, even if I didn't hold the sign up that says Christian counseling, it's just part of who I am, you know. And I think that's a bigger piece. I think that's a bigger quote unquote advertisement
Mm-hmm.
than putting it on a marquee. Um, because one thing I try not to do is make it a burden, but offer it as a perspective. You've tried this and it may have been good, but was it lasting? Was it transformative? Because if you're encountering Jesus, if you're encountering the Holy Spirit, it's transformative.
Right.
You do not leave the same way you came in. And I will take you just like Jesus will take you any which way you come. But he loves you so much, he's not going to let you stay there. And that's kind of how I try to walk this thing out, you know, and I'm very honest. On any given moment, I can say I could sit next to you on that couch
Mm-hmm.
because we're walking this life, and humanity is fatal, you know.
Right.
But we're here together. I believe, you know, there's a guy that I periodically read. His name is Ram Dass, and he says we're just walking each other home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're doing this life together, and we're walking each other home, and that's what I want someone else to experience where you didn't have that before. Let's just walk each other home.
Wow.
You know, life
So
is hard enough.
yeah, it is.
You know,
So
so when you
do you see yourself as more like a supportive role? And I know you were saying like undergirding them and walking them home and is as well. And knowing also that the line is so thin, like you said, I can be on that couch as well, you know, because human life is, you know, as
life
it
is hard.
goes, we don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know, seriously, we really don't know like where we'll be in 5 years or 10 years.
Mm-hmm,
So with
mm-hmm.
that, I want to segue into something a little different. Like, how do you self-care? Like, what do you do to make sure that you're not exhausted from doing what you do on a regular basis?
Well, that is a good question because I I can
Uh-huh.
easily pack my schedule because I've done it. You know, do all the things because I'm Superwoman, and the Lord has told
Mhm.
me, you know, the Lord has made it quite clear that I'm not that good. And I was like, but
Mhm.
surely I am, Jesus. And he's like, you're not that good. Go sit down somewhere. He's asked me to take the back seat, and he didn't even say please. So he has made it quite clear that I'm here to partner with him. So I am
Mhm.
reminded that though people come and they give me their stuff, right? It's sacred
Mhm.
ground, it's sacred stuff, but I have the privilege to take it to my Father. I have a privilege to take it to the triune God who can sort it all out so I don't have to hold it. I take my
Mhm.
time to I do my physical care. I walk. I used to
Mhm.
run, but that don't work out too much anymore. So I walk. I try to pay attention to my body. I try to pay attention to my spirit. You know, I read. I listen to podcasts. I try to encourage myself in that way. I take my breaks when I need to take my breaks. I am trying to get better at practicing, you know, silence and solitude and just taking those moments to just break away from the world. I have a counselor.
Mhm.
The counselor should always have a counselor. And if you go to a counselor who does not go to a counselor, I would ask you to, yes, be patient. However, be very curious of how they're
Mhm.
processing their stuff while they're carrying your stuff.
Right.
Okay. So, and you don't always need a counselor all the time. I get that. But, you know, I have a counselor, and that has been very helpful to me. especially when I can't talk to other people about a lot of the things that do get brought to me.
Mm,
I can't go
right.
home and talk to my husband about my clients like that, you know. So I
Mm,
need a place to be vulnerable myself. I need a place to process that stuff myself. So I've learned that Sabbath isn't just laying down and doing nothing. Sabbath might be me heading down to, you know, some salt water and some sand and just
mm,
being in awe of God,
yeah.
you know, or eating that nice piece of chocolate cake. That just makes my heart happy, you know.
Yeah.
Doing those
Yeah.
things like that and realizing that, you know, God is bigger and God is better and life is hard and I don't have to do it by myself.
That is awesome. And I love that you brought up that you don't get to go home and just throw it all on someone else, because there is such a thing called confidentiality.
Confidentiality. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and you don't want to get into malpractice too. So I do
Mm-mm,
understand
mm-mm, mm-mm,
about
mm-mm,
that.
mm-mm,
Do
mm-mm.
you
No.
find it hard though? I know you said that you have like someone to talk to, but is it hard to keep some of that information to yourself, or is it always sometimes a little tempting to? Or if you do get information, do you just, I guess, directly go to your counselor?
Well, what I do if it gets too heavy for me, the good news is
Hmm.
I do have colleagues here that I can process things right away with.
Okay.
Okay. So if a case comes in and it's too heavy and I've had them, I can't
Hmm.
go home to my husband, but I sure can call up my director. I sure can call up another colleague and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. That's not breaking confidentiality if I don't name details, names,
Right.
things like that.
Hmm.
And a lot of times that's consulting with them because sometimes I just like seriously, it's like, okay, so what do I do next? I know this
Mm,
thing is happening, but I need another perspective. So that professional consultation is very helpful, especially when it comes to kids, because you never actually get the whole story when it comes to kids,
hmm.
because you don't go home with them, you know. So there's like, you know, my director, she's had 5 lives. She was a kindergarten teacher and a school psychologist. So, you know, and she's raised 5 kids. And so I can pull information from her that I can apply into a session. So I do have that privilege of consulting because I'm not by myself. But for the most part, you know, it's processing through prayer, it's processing my own internal stuff through journaling, speaking to my counselor. If it's big enough, I go back and I talk with the client about it.
Mm.
You know, this has been on my heart and I don't want to take you home with me. I care about you, but I really don't want to take you home with me. Let's talk about this, you know.
Right.
And we
Right.
wrestle through it, and it's been helpful. It's been good to approach it that way, because early on that was not my method,
Right.
you know.
So in your field, how many referrals do you get on a regular basis?
Oh my word. um oh goodness, let's just say I haven't missed much. In fact, I'm booked out more than most. And actually, since I have not missed a beat, God has just been faithful. You
Hmm.
know, God has been faithful. I have a set schedule and I'm booked out. Like my afternoons are booked out until like June. So
Wow.
it has been a good journey. It's been hard. I love my job. You know, I love my job. I love stories and people have stories,
Hmm.
you know, and I love my job and the opportunities that it has given me to learn about other people, myself. I've gotten to see God move and work. I've gotten to cry with people. I've gotten to celebrate a lot of things as well as deal with a lot of hard things in myself and in them, um, who come to me. So it's been a blessing to do and to be called to do this type of work, you know, and there are some days I go home and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, but I
Right.
wouldn't trade it. I show up the next day and I do it again and I'll do it again, you know.
Wow. That's
So,
amazing. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you would like to speak to the millennials about?
um, I would like to encourage them to keep on keeping on. You know, this life is hard, but it's good. And you get to learn so much about yourself. And don't be afraid to learn about others. And keep in mind that, you know, Jesus' other name is Emmanuel, and it's God with us. And he delights in you and all of your stuff. He delights in you, and he's smiling upon you, and he's eager to give you peace. And I think that's the gift. I just hope that's the seed that gets planted and grows. That he's eager to give you peace, and he's eager to just be with you. And just in
Yes.
the midst of it all, he's just eager to be with you.
Wow.
So,
Well, thank you so, so much, Miss Noel
well,
Holland. Thank
thank
you for
you.
allowing me to have this chat with you, to interview you on such a topic that's growing among our youth, among our millennials day by day. And the numbers are growing in mental
Hmm.
health.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people are more concerned about that than they were 10 years ago. So that's
Yeah.
incredible to see. I want to thank my Bishop Parrot. Thank you so much for allowing us, as well as thanking Pastor Parrot for allowing us to do this and be on this platform. And you guys have a wonderful, excellent night. See you
Thank you.
next
Good
time.
night. Good night. Thank
Night.
you.